Picking up where we left off, last time we made a brief discussion of hormonal regulation for glycolysis. Uh, Now we're going to talk about the glucose-induced excuse me, induced gene expression. One of those times where my mouth is working, or my brain is working faster than rare, but it happens. I wish I could draw a straight line on this thing. Anyway, okay, so in various lipogenic organs, and in the adipose tissue, okay, uh, you can actually have glucose act as an expression upregulator. Okay, so the presence of glucose in those cells tells those cells that they need to start translating the DNA. And the DNA gets translated, and the proteins that are produced promote what is called Denovo lipogenesis, okay? Which means the creation of new lipid molecules. And I've, of course, wrote this in a very long-winded way, right? But you get the idea. Okay. In addition, there is a particular protein which acts as a kind of metabolic master switch. Okay. And this protein is AMP activated protein kinase. Okay. And in your text and in further notes, it's abbreviated as AMPK. All right. So this protein in particular was first found to be the regulator of lipid metabolism. And we originally thought that that was the only real avenue that it controlled. However, we soon found that it actually acts in carbohydrates as well. Okay. Initially, it was found. Sorry, I already said that. Okay. So it is activated. This protein itself is activated by an increasing ratio, an increase in intracellular AMP to ATP. Right? So if you have the level of AMP on the rise and ATP on the fall, you see this ratio starts to go way up, and that activates AMP-K. All right. What this does is it shuts down anabolic pathways. Okay. And upregulates catabolic ones. All right. It increases or turns them on. Okay. It promotes glycolysis. Okay. By doing a couple of things. Okay. First, it induces stress mediated uptake or upregulation I'm just gonna, yeah, uptake of glucose transporters in the cell membrane. Okay. It also induces exercise mediated uptake of glucose transporters in the cell membrane. Okay. Um, this happens in skeletal muscle. Okay. And other cell membranes like the cardiac muscle. Okay. It also activates the PFK2 enzyme in cardiac tissues. Okay. So, I mean, this makes sense, right? Because whenever you're under a lot of stress or whenever you um, are exercising, which your cells also would see as stress, um, they're going to need more energy, right? Your body responds by giving you a flush of energy, and your heart rate increases. Well, your heart's got to get that energy from somewhere, and your blood pressure goes up, and the blood flow to various organs increases, including your brain, right? Your eyes, your ears, all your sensory organs. Um, Sometimes people, whenever they get into this kind of stress or hyper exercise state, they get especially if you're exercising, they get a heavy flush from the excess blood transport to the skin. Now, granted, part of that is, your body's attempt at thermal self regulation, but you also experience a flush of blood to the skin so that the skin can act as your touch sensor, and it's all your body's response to danger. Um, and so this is a huge thing uh, that our bodies are capable of doing, and it's just done by one protein. One protein sends the body that signal to, you know, process energy, process it fast, process it now. We need energy. We need energy. We need energy because it really doesn't differentiate between exercise and external stress. Okay. Now, there are other things that happen if it's external stress over exercise. Your brain puts out things like, adrenaline, which comes from your adrenal gland. And, that's beyond the scope of this particular course. But you get the idea. Okay. Um, this acts as a very good segue, okay? Because part of the pathways that are being activated, um, is all these catabolic pathways are burning up energy, right? Um, but at some point, we need to continue to feed energy to ourselves, right? What happens if we don't have enough energy intake from food, for example, right? What happens overnight when we're sleeping? How do we not go into a coma? And that process is called gluconeogenesis. Okay. Now, you can understand, is glucose, new, genesis, creation. So literally, we are talking about the pathway by which we produce glucose from non-carbohydrates. Okay, this is why we don't go into a coma every time we go to sleep. Okay, because our liver and our kidneys and our intestines function to produce glucose despite the lack of blood glucose. They produce glucose from other cellular waste products so that our brains and our hearts, brains most especially, because brains only function with glucose. Okay. Um, and our red blood cells only function, like they are only powered by glucose. Okay. So you know how key those two things are to your continued existence, right? And that is how they continue to function. Okay, this is taken care of mostly by the liver, 85% of it. Okay, and 15% of it is done in the kidneys and the small intestine. Okay, all right. Um, however, however, under stress, okay, for a prolonged fast, okay, say so we've been so for example, Ramadan, right? You spend all day not eating, right? Uh, During that time, your kidneys take over more of the load, up to 40%. Okay, so your liver will ramp back its production, and well, it wouldn't ramp back its production, but your kidneys end up taking a larger role. Okay, this stresses the organ. Don't get me wrong. You can damage your kidneys by not eating. So, make sure you're still eating. But your body can produce the glucose necessary to keep your brain functional. Okay. But it does produce stress on these organ systems. It's not an easy process for them. Okay. It is much preferred that you give your body what it needs. All right. Okay. So they use some of our common metabolic byproducts as precursor molecules. That's not right. I'm just going to call it. Okay. Uh, Things like lactate, citrate, um, pyruvate, and various alpha keto acids. Okay, and these are derived from the corresponding alpha amino acids. Okay, they're derivatives of those amino acids. Right. Um, those are all common reagents for this pathway. Okay. Um, as we have discussed, this is key to continued brain and kidney function. Or, sorry, brain and red blood cell function. Because these tissues rely exclusively on glucose for energy. They have no capability to break down proteins for energy. They have no capability to break down lipids for energy. Especially the brain has no capability to break down anything other than glucose. Brain tissue is utterly glucose dependent. Um, it cannot form energy from anything else. You need sugar. Okay. Um, there is a myth that sugar causes type 2 diabetes. The answer is no. There is no link, there's no causal link between sugar consumption and type 2 diabetes development. Okay? Yes, it is common that people who develop type 2 diabetes are overweight and have poor diet, but there are plenty of healthy people who have healthy diets, okay, that don't binge, all right, that do try to take care of themselves, that develop type 2 diabetes. Okay? It's a genetic issue sometimes. Okay, something goes wrong in these processes that the glycolysis and the gluconeogenesis pathways. Something goes wrong. Some signaling molecule doesn't do its job, or the signal gets lost somewhere by the cells, and they don't turn off, or they never turn on, or when they do, they're not putting out sufficient levels, or something is going on. Okay, there's an issue somewhere in the endocrine process, in these processes. Okay. Um, so don't let anybody say, oh, well, all sugar is bad for you. It's not. Okay, you need sugar. Your brain needs a moderate amount of sugar to function. All right. Absolutely, it needs it. Absolutely, it needs it. Okay. Um, so don't let anybody ever tell you that, oh, I mean, you can consume way too much sugar, but don't let anybody tell you that you shouldn't try to cut all carbohydrates out of your diet. That's not a healthy thing to do. Okay, especially if you do it all of a sudden out of nowhere. Because again, you will start putting stress on your liver and on your kidneys to break down all the fats in your body. And then, your body's smart. It's not going to break down its fats and its glycogen stores first. No, 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 no. First thing your body does is it goes after your skeletal muscle and your cardiac muscle. That's right, you can destroy your heart tissue by stopping carbs. Okay? So the strictest form of the keto diet can be very dangerous. Okay? Because you can cause yourself long lasting heart damage because your body is going to sacrifice your muscle tissue to make your brain continue to function. All right? On the hierarchy of needs in your body, your brain is pretty much at the top. It will sacrifice every other organ system first. So just bear that in mind. Okay? Be smart when it comes to making decisions regarding your diet. Right? Random aside from Dr. Cunningham. The reactions from gluconeogenesis are largely the inverse of the glycolytic reactions. right? And this makes sense, right? Because most of those reactions were reversible, with exception to the ones mediated by particular proteins. Okay. The reactions mediated by the hexokinase family, PFK1, and protein kinase all were irreversible, right? That's the key to getting energy out of glycolysis, right? Well, in gluconeogenesis, we can bypass these reactions. Okay, we have bypass reactions that take place um, to overcome that irreversibility. All right, and we will look at these reactions in the next video, and then from there we will continue on and hopefully get through the pentose phosphate pathway soon, and then move on to nucleic acids. So we're getting there. We're getting there.